Hi, everybody. First of all, happy Lenin's birthday, everybody. Happy Lenin's birthday. Yeah. Tonight I was reminded this morning that the very first Earth Day, held in 1969, was held on, coincidentally apparently, the 100th anniversary of Lenin's birthday. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that appropriate? It's just fantastic.
We have a
There we go. And here we are in front of the EPA on Earth Day in April 2009, and it is a cold, wet, and dreary day. We just had hail. And I never thought I'd have it happen, but I've actually gotten rousted by the cops, by the feds, to move, which is just astounding to me. It's just amazing. So here we are outside. We were just inside before. I gotta tell you, I want you all to sort of turn your attention over that way. You see that tent over there with the band? At some point in time, this administration is going to want to regulate them. Why? Because they are now point sources of emissions of carbon dioxide. I got to tell you, if they have their way, you will now need to file a permit under the Clean Air Act to have a band concert performance out here. That's what they're getting at right now. That is what the regulation of CO2 is all about. Now, CEI, you just heard from Chris Horner, CEI put out a great ad last year. They call it pollution, we call it life. Because the bottom line is you cannot force a law that was designed to regulate power companies, big facilities. You can't force that law into regulating the emissions of CO2. Why? Because all the folks who are here today, everybody who's here today, we are all point sources of those emissions. What the EPA, thank you for exhaling. That's for the next book. Thank you for breathing. The bottom line is that what the EPA has proposed. Now, Chris talked about cap and trade, which is one extremely horrible law, crafted by Enron as a way of revamping the economy in the way that only Enron could have imagined, really, right? But the other side of it is what's happening here at the EPA, which are two tracks. Number one is this endangerment finding, this idea that your breathing, what's your name? Cherie. That Cherie's breathing is somehow endangering my health. Now, if we were standing in a tightly enclosed space, that might be true, but out here, it certainly is not the case. But what it does is it opens up the door for them to force millions upon millions of people, millions of small family-owned businesses and the working families that depend on them into the same framework of the Pepcos of the world, the Con Edisons of the world, the large power companies that are here in the United States. And it just can't be done. What it means is that if you own a pizza shop and you have a gas-fired oven, all of a sudden you're going to have to go through the same permitting process as the big guys who are out there. Now, these are people who can afford to pay millions of dollars to lawyers and environmental consultants to help them ferret out what they need to do. But if you're a family-owned business, you don't have that expertise on staff. You can't afford to hire that expertise. And you are largely the person who's going to have to go out there and do it right now without the new mandates of the EPA. It costs a small business about $7,700 per employee per year to comply with all their federal mandates. That means that if you're a business with 10 employees, that's $77,000 that goes out the door. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at a fiscal crossroads in America. And rather than do that which would free up literally $1 trillion in the economy, $1 trillion, the EPA wants to increase that amount of regulation. They want to increase those costs. They don't want to just increase the paperwork cost, but they want to increase your cost of doing business, your cost of raw materials, your cost of energy. And in the end, this translates into jobs.
Yeah.
Now, we get this from the other side. Well, we want to create 100 billion, trillion, gajillion green jobs on the other side. And we all know that green jobs are subsidized jobs. If not, they just be called jobs. But at the same time, they're causing are really, really causing the economy to go down the tube. We've never been faced with this before. This idea that at the same time we're talking about trying to save ourselves in the economy, we're not doing the very thing that could save us, which is reduce those costs and free up those gains. It really is just ascending. And one other quick thing, because I know we're all cold and we're all wet here, and my friend R.J. Smith has just arrived. One of the great problems that we found, one of the things that is driving this is that we have lost our way in terms of creating environmental policy in America. The fact is, 30 years ago, when we created the first major environmental regulations, we knew it was going to cost something.
Excuse me, we need to move over just a little bit so everybody can watch this. Use the same sidewalk.
Eventually they're going to move us back under something. That's what I'm hoping for. You know, we're going to get back under the overhang. We'll get back to my point. Those regulations did not come without costs. And to me, there's no great mystery in the fact that in the early 70s, when we passed the first great environmental pieces of legislation, they did a great deal to clean up the environment. There's no doubt in my mind that we had a problem, that we had rivers catching on fire, people literally couldn't breathe. But in the 30 years since those laws were passed, yeah, our environment has gotten markedly cleaner. About 80% of the mess that was happening in the 70s is cleaned up. But we've also lost almost all of our heavy manufacturing capability in America. There are costs to all of this. And now we're at a point whereas back then, we would prioritize what we wanted to do as a nation in terms of environmental protection. We would rank things. We would assess risk. We would determine cost versus benefit. Now, we just want to do everything at once. Walk down the overhang here at EPA, and you see program after program after program that provides marginal benefits in terms of the environment. We need to assess risks. We need to figure out exactly what our pressing environmental needs are and then go after them. We have to answer the question, how clean is clean? And what are we willing to spend to get to X, Y, and Z? When we do that, we can handle the big environmental problems. If we want to prioritize carbon as a problem in America, I don't think we do. I think when it comes to pressing environmental issues, carbon ranks very, very low on the list. But if we do, then we attack that properly, but we trade off with not doing other things as well. We have to do trade-offs. So with that, I want to thank you all again. Happy Earth Day, happy Lenin's birthday, and enjoy the weather.